Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Civil Debates with Vishesh and Sugandha. Today's topic for the day is should the central government continue with building the Central Vista in the middle of the pandemic? And I am of the opinion that it is okay to continue, with building the new parliament building. And Sugandha, I think, is of the opinion that most of the resources should be focused on the pandemic. So, Sugandha, let's start with you, right? Why do you think that is the case?
See, Vishesh, I'm not just against that, the resources should be siphoned for healthcare. There are also several points regarding the Central Vista project, which made me realize that have there are a lot of chinks in the armor, if I can put it like that. And there are several non-COVID reasons as well as as to why it shouldn't, continue, be it the pandemic or not, or especially during the pandemic, considering so like sh- the blanket ethical reason, of course, is that the Central Vista shouldn't be happening because we are in the middle of a pandemic. Today is on May 23rd. India crossed the highest cumulative death toll. It's just behind Brazil and America at the moment. We have crossed 3 lakhs today, on a few days ago. And there are bodies on the Ganges here. There are literally, there have been news channels that has been covering, there on the beaches and on the ghats, you can just see bodies one after the other. And you can just count the number and it wouldn't be enough. So, like, so the biggest question that comes to me is why? Why is it still being built? Is it being built on corpses? And yeah, so I will just start with the blanket ethical reason that right now India is in turmoil. Its healthcare infrastructure is in shambles. The budget 2021 said that 35,000 crore would be denoted to healthcare, but it did not specify whether it was on vaccinations. And then after a month, it was relegated to the state fundings and the household vaccination institutions. But we still haven't received how this 35,000 crore, which has been given to the budget, has been denoted for COVID care. What is being done with it? Or for that matter, the PM Cares Fund. Where is the division on what vaccination is being procured, how medical supplies are coming? There is an oxygen deficit. We do not have a clear cut, documentation on where it is going. At least the common public does not know. So, and even if I go on sites and even if I check the numbers, every site varies. There is no consensus on what the numbers are actually saying. So there has to be something dicey about it. And so my question here is that what is this 20,000 crore project really standing on? That is the first thing that I'll come across. But please go on.
Awesome. I mean, you asked the question why during the pandemic? Why build? Why continue with the project? And there's a simple enough reason for it that the project actually, is not something that has just come out of the blue, right? It's something that's been in planning for a very long time. 2012 was the year when actually the Congress government actually, signed it off and said that, okay, they wrote a letter to the Urban Development Ministry saying that we should go ahead with building this new Central Vista, the new Parliament building and all of the central secretariat, the new building, etc. We should go ahead with it. Now, I'll tell you why the building itself is needed, why the new parliament building is needed. See, the point is that if you look at the current state of the Rashtrapati Bhavan and the North Block, South Block, the Parliament building, etc. These are buildings that were built between the years 1911 to like 1930. Right? It's been a really long time. and most of these buildings are completely in a state of collapse. Like there in the year of 2009, I think there was a certain incident that happened where certain cement blocks started falling off from the ceiling. There have been cases of fire in these buildings, and these buildings have not been approved by the fire department in terms of, they're not safe, they're not earthquake safe, they're not safe in case of a major fire. Most of these buildings were built on old architecture, and they definitely need to be renovated and upgraded. That's one reason. And then the most important thing is that these buildings were built for a very small cabinet. Like right now, for us, the total number of members of parliament, um, you know, uh, we're going to expand massively by the year 2026. And I say this because in the current capacity of the parliament was decided according to the 1971 census. Okay, and let's come a little bit to how India has changed in terms of population demographics since 1971. Right, in the year 1971, the proportion of seats allotted to the northern states, which is the states over the Gangetic Plains, which is like Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, versus the seats allotted to the southern states, was not the proportion was not very different when you look at the number of seats allotted to the population of these states. Okay, but since then, what has happened is there has been a massive population surge in the northern states versus the southern states. So now what has happened is that the northern states are much higher in terms of fertility rates, and their population has really gone up, and therefore one member of parliament serving a certain section of that population. The actual figures are that in the states of Uttar Pradesh and Bihar, etc., one MP serves about 28 lakh to 30 lakh people. Okay, whereas in a state like Kerala, one MP serves around 10 lakh to 12 lakh people. That's how the proportion. And this wasn't the case like in the 1970s. The proportion has become way too different. So now what is happening is the constitution allows for this. So in the year 2026, there's going to be a massive restructuring of the complete number of seats. So it's going to go up to at least 870 plus seats, the overall parliament. And you need somewhere to seat these people. You cannot allow these people to be seated in the same parliament building right now. It's already in complete disruption and deprecation. And you cannot allow for the parliament to be filled in with 800 plus members right now. So these are, I think, reasons enough for pandemic or no pandemic. These are reasons enough to continue with the project, right? This was decided much before the pandemic, and these are like really enough reasons. I feel that the project is supposed to go on. What do you feel?
For starters, renovations across different parliamentary buildings have been done in different countries. So the White House has been renovated multiple times. The Bundestag has also been renovated. So if you want to increase the number of seats for members, why not convert the central hall in the parliament into the lower house? That is one. The second, that will give you at least 100 amount of seats. For starters, the next is whenever you have a change of the structure, the restructuring as you put it, for the parliament, the next question comes, what about the work policies of this restructured parliament? There has to be a work review, right? Like, so you're restructuring the outside, but you need to know how the dynamics in the inside work. Not a single work review has been submitted. There has been no explanation whether it's still going to be a desk review thing, or will it be like it has been touted as the helm of modernity and nationalism, right? So will it be a desk to officer thing? How much technology will be put in? No explanation to that. Or whether it is still going to stay in the file system that has been going on since the colonial era. So no explanation there. And as you said, Vishesh, another point that it has been there since 2012. But There have been, so I have actually been following up how this Central Vista still came about to 2021. The fact of the matter is a lot of government bodies, and by government bodies, I mean democratically elected government bodies, have been bypassed in order to stand where we are today. I was going through some explanations and I saw, like, without so there has to be approvals at every stage for a government body to pass in a democratic republic country. Every government elected government body has to put their formal stamp of approval. BUAC, Delhi Urban Arts Commission, is not one of them, but they were suddenly converted into a government body. CPWD, which is the Central Police Works Department, that wasn't an elected government body, but it also was suddenly given an authority to do so. But for that matter, NMDC, which is the Municipal Council for Delhi, that was not commented for. Their formal stamp of approval was discarded, and the CVC was not taken into account. The HCC, which is the Heritage Committee, that was not taken into account. So at multiple stage, I can see that there has been a lot of step jumps. Moreover, suddenly government public use land, and as you said, Vishesh, we have a huge population. It is 1.35 billion on an 88,672 square kilometer. It's huge. And so, in that case, public land for public use is extremely precious, right? It has to be there for infrastructure, it has to be there for the development of society. Suddenly, I saw on from August 2000, August 24, 2016 onwards, there has been land converted from semi to public use land into government use land, and that number has exceeded 100 crores suddenly. So, and on this note, another thing that I came across was that there's a Government Buildings Act 1899. This is a staple colonial era uh, law, or an act in the book. So the question here is, like, you want to build something based on nationalistic prowess and on modernity, but you're basing that on a colonial era law, which was basically used to exploit land back in the colonial times. You're putting Government Buildings Act, which basically gives the government the free right, more like the imperial power, to build government buildings at anywhere it wants. Also, now that you're building the parliament in such a huge scale, so you're going to put the ideally speaking, all the important representations of the country into one building. That, I believe, is also extremely unsafe. In White House, or be it the Pentagon of the United States, or be it even in Germany, like, important buildings are spread across on a huge distance, so that there is always a basic survivor if there is an attack. So even in terms of safety, how safe is this? You have 800 MPs into one building, and if there is some kind of a terrorist attack, and we can always say that we are prepared, we can always keep saying we are prepared, but then America wasn't prepared for 9/11. So, like, who are we saying anything? There can always be some intermittent danger at one point or the other. So why not spread it across as well? So these are some non-COVID reasons which I have been thinking about, like leaving out the pandemic. This is also some of the things that I have been thinking about, that why put the entire power or the representation of the country in one place? So that is another point. There are a few more points, but let's keep on having a conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, there are a lot of points raised, and maybe the last one is something that I'll address first. That in terms of the members of parliament being all in one place, I think the way it is, there's obviously a central. There's a parliament building that is needed, right, for holding the Lok Sabha session. So I'm not sure if you're referring to that. Plus, if you're referring to like the MP houses all being very close together and not being very spread out, maybe that is something that that should be looked into. But in terms of like just a central secretariat which houses all the ministries, right now there are about 51 ministries, and then obviously as the Lok Sabha expands, the number of ministries is also going to expand. So if you're talking about the number of ministries being housed at a central secretariat, I think that's fine according to me, because you need a central place for working, like for everybody to work at one particular place. And I mean, I'm pretty sure that's how it works in the White House as well, right? Like you have most of the ministries, etc., working from one place. So it could be that the whole, the White House, the whole architecture is spread over a lot, much bigger area. That might be possible, and maybe India doesn't have that kind of flexibility. But I think just to say that like a lot of public land is being converted, I mean, I don't think that's right. Like I know for a fact that the North Block and the South Block right now, they are actually being converted back into public use. So even though they're creating the new Parliament building, and they're creating like a central secretariat, and a lot of other things, there are many areas within the current existing architecture that are actually being converted back into public use. So and in terms of like forcible, like taking away of land, etc., or the other points that you mentioned, right? That using colonial laws to, for example, justify, taking like public land into government for building government property. Um, I think just the fact that this particular endeavor is needed. And also in terms of the plans not being out there, I think it's all actually it's available. It's not like anything is a secret or kind of this thing. Like for example, if you look at the whole architectural plan right now, it's just two particular buildings that have actually been authorized and the work has been started for. Even though it is a 20,000 crore project, it's only like one particular building is the new Parliament building, which is like around 800 or 900 crores has been sanctioned for that. And then there is another particular, small area for which around 400 to 500 crores has been sanctioned. So basically what you're seeing is these 20,000 crores are being distributed over 4 years. It's not like it's just started from 2021, and it will probably get completed by 2024, around 2024, 2025. So I mean, first of all, the 20,000 amount isn't that big, and then and the point is that it's justified, right? Even if you're taking this amount, and you are increasing the area and the land allotted for the new Parliament building and the new architecture, even though it may come into public property, I think it's completely justified, and it's needed. In fact, in terms of at the end of the day, it's also supposed to, look a certain way, and it's supposed to have a certain kind of architectural touch to it. So I think all of that gets justified, within this, looking at the current needs.
Vishesh, so right now, as you said, like things are available. The fact of the matter is it's not, because the things have not been laid out across how 20,000 crore is going to be spent to begin with. But that is a big fallacy, because everything that's been made by the government before, you need to have like a 10-point program, and that needs to be sanctioned by 10 or 13 different departments before you actually put that into process. Right now, we know that 2,000 jamun trees are being cut to make space for the Central Vista. But do we have an exact number on how many trees are actually being cut? We don't. Also, Next thing is that 800 to 900 crores are being used right now. That is a number that we are putting. And then over the time, that would be the total amount. But all these steps that are being taken, all this information that has been done, these are found in the lowest quality PDFs, and they are not being sanctioned by elected government bodies. Government bodies which are not elected by the people are suddenly transforming into places that can sanction and give formal approval. This is against the code of law. That cannot happen as per the constitution, because the government is the representation of its people. Without the sanction of the people, you cannot have something like this. Like, without the sanction of the NMDC, you cannot do something like NDMC, you cannot have something like that. All these steps, all these commissions have been bypassed. Next, even on the basis of the history and the heritage of this country, the national archives are going to be transferred into museums. Where are these very vulnerable commodities that have been there in the national archives going to be stored? How safely are they going to be stored? How safe is it going to be? And where are they going to be kept later on? How much damage to history are we going to sustain? Even if it includes a bit of colonial history, but it also includes part of our history, our 4,000-year-old history. And these things are going to be moved, these places are going to be transferred. No one knows how much safekeeping is going to be done there. Next is, we want parking spaces for our MPs. Well, the barracks are all empty. Like, there were huge horse barracks before in the Central Vista area. They could all be transferred into the huge parking spaces that has been demanded to begin with. And as I said, the central hall can also become the part of the lower house to house more MPs. And the next is, we are saying that it's available, but there has not been a single official government source which I can say, okay, these are the numbers, these are the methods. And I think as a citizen of my country, I have the right to know. I have the right to know that what money, and I have the right to know what kind of amount is being stored. And apart from all these official numbers that we are crunching, let's just look at the environmental impact. We are being told that there will be trees planted, but what about now when trees are being cut, when there is a huge ecological damage being sustained, and that too on the face of global warming? So we are, and few years ago, COVID or something something like a pandemic in 2014 or 15, if somebody would have told me, it would have seemed unreal to me. But that's our reality right now. And right now, for some people, it can even be like, okay, global warming, what big effect is this going to be? It's just going to be hot. It's going to become hotter. But it's going to be so much worse. And we do not have the idea how bad it's going to be until we are in that frying pan ourselves. So whatever seems like a pipe dream right now can become a nightmare in the future. And every little tree, every little step, every little act towards the environment also counts. So whatever amenity and economic prowess that we are waiting for to happen in 2025 or 2026, what about the crisis that is happening now? How much crisis can be overcome from before we actually reach that stage of super infrastructure that we are being promised?
All right. See, starting from your point of not enough permissions being taken, that always happens. So the point is that the Supreme Court has, kind of put those discussions to an end. There have been litigations against the Central Vista project, multiple litigations, in fact, and the Supreme Court has, allowed it. At the end of the day, whatever the highest court in the country says is decision paramount, right? So I think that should really take care of the concerns about, even if the permissions, etc., were not taken, or a certain piece from a certain permission from a certain department. I think there have been a couple of litigations regarding it, and the Supreme Court has solved that. So that's one thing. And then let's talk about trees being cut and a lot of environmental damage, etc., and the arguments about global warming. So actually, if you look at the current architecture and the current building, right, and it's obviously going to be according to modern design, but it's being claimed that that the current architecture is going to be really energy efficient, and that's obvious, right? I mean, something that is built 90 years back is it's really in a state of despair right now, and and any new architectural design that you're coming up with is going to be efficient in terms of space allocation. It's going to be efficient in terms of energy allocation, and it's going to be according to modern architectural trends. So I think that more than compensates for any environmental concerns that we may have. And I don't have the exact numbers yet, like how much of energy saving, etc. And that relates back to your point as well, that these numbers should have been out there when you're saying that we as a public are we need to know like where the money is being spent. I completely agree with you. And if you're claiming that something is energy efficient, then you need to put out the numbers and you need to put out the exact designs. I totally agree with that as well. And that's probably a shortcoming of this project. But then again, the point is that the whole project is just starting right now, right? It's not even like I would say even 1/10 of the project is not really started off. So to say that everything that you need right now should be out in public domain, I'm not sure if that's an okay argument, and I'm pretty sure that over the next a few months, as and when the project really becomes much bigger, there will be more details released. As more and more buildings start getting commissioned and the actual money starts being allotted, all the details will start coming out. So I don't think that should be a big concern. Um, and yeah, I mean, in regards to anything else, like I'm not sure if I missed out on any of your points. Maybe you can, come back to me with some points that I may have missed out on.
Uh, Not about that, Vishesh. What I was thinking was, the part where things are getting approved without being shown the final plan. As for the Supreme Court giving a stamp of approval, we know right now the state of the judiciary. Ramana has just been elected as the Chief Justice, and this one I think came prior to Ramana. And if there is a consensus on the country regarding how much they trust the judiciary, I think the answer would be quite questionable as to how much the citizens actually can trust the judicial system. They can have a say, and they have the final say, but this is also a democracy where the power ideally lies to the people. And if there is a consensus raging across a democratic republic where the people do not trust their government, where the people do not trust their judiciary, don't you think that something is essentially going very wrong here? Like there are people that, you know, because this sounds a lot like imperialism or a monarchy. We, the people, in the preamble says it, that we elected our government, that we are going to be democratic and republic, but we do not trust the institutions that are charged to protect us. So there has been a lot of dicey things here and there, points missed out, explanations not given. We are always being said, like, let it happen, let it roll. As it comes, we are going to know. As it comes, we are going to know. But there is always things that are being left unsaid, and then suddenly it happens. Next, for the matter, is something that I have been thinking about, like your points, as you were saying, like it's justified, but uh, right now, like you are saying that it's going to be a very energy efficient in the future, but how much energy does it does, like, all the construction utilities and everything that's around, like everything that goes into the construction process? I'm sure we are not going to use uh the engines or like steamrollers which do not have any environmental impact whatsoever. It's going to be used for 5 years. And do we have a number on how much energy cost that's going to give us? We don't. We do not know how much energy efficient the building of this energy efficient place is going to be, how much environmental impact is going to do in the 5 years that it takes to create this. Also, I came across this very interesting report this last week, actually. So, the pandemic has been there for 1.5 years almost. And in India, 50% of the people actually wear masks. Of these 50%, only 64%, only 64% people do, sorry, 64% of the people do not wear their masks correctly.
Mhm.
So 50% and then 64% not wearing their masks correctly. Who is going to impose all the laws in while the workers are working in the Central Vista project? Who is going to ensure that there is a proper labor department who is seeing that these masks are being worn properly, so that these workers, they don't get afflicted by COVID? And right now it has been proven that COVID is airborne and it's passing through aerosol particles. Who is to say that this is not going to turn into a super spreader? Who
Mhm.
is going to say that the crisis that Delhi just had like a few weeks ago, even it's not been a total, I think, of a month, with oxygen crisis and 4 hours of oxygen remaining in the national capital of the country? Who is going to like assure you, that this is not going to become another nightmare for the NCP? I So these are questions, and if questions of enforcement comes, then we have to look at Madhya Pradesh, where this woman I saw was had gone out to buy groceries with her daughter, and she was harassed, threatened, beaten up, and it was a video recording. So if it's enforcement, then it comes to police violence. And if it's not enforced, then it's a super spreader. I don't know where we are going here. I think waiting around for the mentality of people to change, I think that is also a very helpless cause. And also enforcement comes at the cost of violence. So where do we stand?
So obviously part of these discussions we have had in our previous debate as well, when we were discussing about the lockdown. And I totally agree with you that in terms of wearing masks or enforcing the right rules, we have a shortfall, and we're not like even if this project goes ahead and there's going to be massive construction work, uh, there is no assurance that there's going to be a proper COVID protocols that are going to be, followed for the construction activity. And yes, we have had these discussions before as well, as to wearing of masks and just maintaining the proper social distancing, having a lot of COVID hygiene. Uh, I'm pretty sure that's something that's not going to be followed stringently. But then again, the argument, the point becomes that we are not sure at all how long this pandemic will last, and this can take the next 2 years, or it can end by December, or it can take the next it can continue to the next 2-3 years as well. So the point is, do you stop like all economic activity and all other activities during that time? Like, this project is going to be pretty long, and it's going to be like at least 3 to 4 years long. And at the same time, it's going to provide a lot of jobs. Like, it's a project of this magnitude is really going to pump up the economic activity, especially in the Delhi region. So it's going to allow for a lot of the reverse migration of the labor that so sadly, was during the last lockdown, national lockdown. It was very sad to hear about the migrant crisis, but then it's really going to have a reverse effect, and it's going to provide a lot of employment in that perspective. So how much are we going to wait it out? Like, we are not a country with the biggest of per capita income, and we are going to have these challenges where a proper administrative way of dealing with the pandemic may not be there. But we have to, I think, continue with whatever plans we had pre-pandemic at some point, right? Um, that's maybe what I would want to say, as a concluding argument of mine. Maybe, what do you think?
There are no specific numbers as to how this is going to increase the per capita income or the economic development of the country as of yet. There have been no numbers crunched. There has been no statistical reports. We have a national statistical department,
Right.
and there has been nothing on their front. Bangladesh just crossed the per capita income from us,
Mhm.
and we keep touting about the economy being very important. And it got me very interested, and I actually went up and looked into the definition of economics, and it comes under a social science. And a social science is essentially a science that is for social progress, for the people, for the humanity. It seems like the pandemic has put the concept of economy versus human life. It has become something of that manner as we go ahead. Like, what do we do about the economy? What do we do about the economy? So, you want to economize. Uh, what about a single hospital that could have been created in the last 1.5 years? AIMS Madurai is still unfinished. It's a 200 crore project. It's still unfinished. It's lying there. Why? I think more than the parliament being created, healthcare sector has enough and more economic, push to help the economic thing. Because let's face it, a healthcare sector will have doctors, will have new medicines coming in. Big pharmas will finally get a bigger place for us. We will be able to house more global vaccine, perhaps. This end to the pandemic that we keep thinking which may never come might come if we can get, 70% of our people vaccinated.
Mhm.
But what is there? Has there been a single proper hospital being sanctioned by the government as of yet in the last 1.5 years? I don't think so. 20,000 crores are being there. 35,000 crores have been allotted to healthcare, but there are no hospitals being created. Barracks are being transferred into, basic healthcare centers, and 551 oxygen plants are being promised. But at the same time, you want to increase the economy, boost big pharma. And I think health tourism is also a big infrastructural and economic boost to any nation. Let's look at Germany. Let's look at America. Health tourism has become a huge fad among the people. Like, they can't get treated in their particular country, they go abroad if they have the money. And health tourism, and I think Germany and Canada boosts a lot in this department. So why not promote a better healthcare here? And we are creating jobs here, but what are we essentially doing? We are making the government bigger. We are making the government have a bigger scope. But according to the free market principle that, privatization is good, as the government has kept on saying, like, let's move towards privatization, free market policies. Free market policy has a principle where the lowest amount of government pressure should be there. Making the government bigger, I think at the end of the day, the GDP and the per capita that we are being promised won't really essentially come, because we know, as history has shown repeatedly, that the bigger the government has the power, the lesser the private sector can grow. We have seen that during, as we always keep saying, during the time of the Congress, the Soviet Union. We have examples. So why make the government big when you yourself want the free market policy with a bigger GDP, with a bigger per capita, and a bigger super economy? So that would be my concluding statement.
Absolutely, and they're like both the points that you have raised regarding bigger government and regarding like economy can be boosted via the healthcare sector. I think both have very important points, and I don't think that I have a clear cut response to them. Apart from just saying that yes, healthcare sector is important and it will create employment, especially, and it's needed, especially during the times of the pandemic. And at the same time, social justice, all of these other things are also important because of which the Central Vista actually started off. The earlier points that I raised regarding there being a population imbalance, and because of that, representation imbalance in the Lok Sabha. But then again, all of your points of bigger governance also hold valid, and it's a complicated issue at the end of the day, I think. And I'm not sure that I can I'm not sure that maybe in one particular discussion we can maybe come to a solid conclusion over this.
We can never do that with any one of our topics. I believe we pick up the most complicated ones, and but it's interesting, like, we exchange these thoughts, and more understanding come across. And I think that, it helps other people, our viewers as well, have a more clear cut idea about what they are dealing with here.
Absolutely, and talking numbers and talking data and facts helps at the end of the day, even if you don't reach, a proper conclusion. I agree with you that, it does build a better understanding of the topic itself. And I'm glad, so that we can have these discussions. And, I hope that our audience also likes this and enjoys it. And, kind of, let's builds some kind, takes something away from these discussions.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot, Sugandha, once again.
Thank you, Vishesh, for having me. It was a great discussion as always.
Thank you so much. And guys, please leave some comments. Let us know if you're on the right track. And I hope all of you are enjoying these sessions. Thanks a lot, and we'll be back with more soon.